Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about Roses on Ice by Kilian. So stay tuned for that. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Really do appreciate it. Now, Roses on Ice is one of the new releases by Kilian for the newly launched Liquors collection. I do know that they're going to be making two more, as far as I know, in the relatively near future. One of them is going to be based on absinthe, and the other is going to be, from what I understand, a rework of apple brandy. And I know it's a popular one. I do like apple brandy, although I prefer single malt. But I am excited to see how this line goes. I like the presentation, as those nice glass bottles. And Roses on Ice is one of the new ones, along with Angel's Share. And it has, where it's more of a fresh fragrance. So I was interested to try this one out, but I decided not to purchase this one right away because I wasn't so sure about it. It didn't seem like something that I would really like. But, you know, without further ado, let's just get into what this fragrance smells like. So, you know, it's kind of funny because I watched Timmy talk about this fragrance, and he said it reminds him of a cucumber salad. So there is a cucumber note in this one, and it is fairly prominent. And, you know, I almost kind of understand what he means. And I personally, I do get on the initial burst, maybe 5-10 seconds, where it does kind of remind me of a salad. Because that cucumber note is really, really prominent in the opening. It's really in your face. And it's also a thing, I mean, I'm kind of joking because I don't really remember what Nautica Voyage smells like, but I remember that it has a cucumber note, so I call this one the niche Nautica Voyage. It would be interesting if somebody has smelt this and Nautica, what they actually think, but I don't actually remember. But I will say that it is also a fresh fragrance like Voyage, so you do get a lot of that cucumber in the opening. Now, yes, on the initial burst, I do kind of get that salady vibe, but very, very quickly that disappears, and it becomes a very refreshing fragrance. So the cucumber note is there, but it's very chilled, very relaxing, very cool. And there is a bit of a sort of prickly vibe that I sometimes get this with juniper berry. And I know this has juniper berry in it. I sometimes get what smells like or feels like the texture of sort of the prickles or I guess they're leaves on the branch of the juniper berry. And I definitely get that really fresh, almost kind of prickly vibe along with that cucumber. It's very light, almost a little bit fizzy, airy. And it does have a very crystal kind of freshness to it. So it is very, very fresh, very uplifting, and definitely one that's going to be better for the spring and summer. Definitely really good for the summer. You know, and I don't get, what I don't get, though, I should mention, is I don't really get a lot of booziness. Now, I know the Liqueurs collection is going to be more boozy fragrances. Makes sense. And, you know, I think it's a good idea to have them sort of in one sort of olfactive family. And, of course, the presentation works with that. But I know that sometimes juniper berry can come off a little bit like gin. I don't really get that. Now, I will say I've never drank a lot of gin. So maybe, you know, it's just the scent memory isn't really there for me. But I wouldn't consider this to be a particularly boozy fragrance. Same with like Vodka on the Rocks. If you've smelled that one, to me, I don't really get any kind of vodka. It does not smell like vodka. There is sort of this really clean kind of a fresh smell that, in a way, briefly kind of reminds me of vodka, but not really. So this is, to me, the same idea. This is not, I mean, if you're looking for a fresh, boozy fragrance, it's worth a try. Maybe it smells a little bit boozier to me, but than it does to me. But again, I don't really get a lot of booziness there. Now, the rose in this fragrance is one of the main reasons why I decided not to buy this one, because I know that for me personally, I'm fairly picky about rose fragrances. I do like some rose fragrances, and I do like rose in a fragrance, but only sometimes. It's one of those notes that, especially if prominent, can go very bad for me personally. I just don't really like it. But I would say that the rose in this is pretty subtle, so it's not super rosy. I know a lot of times rose can give off a sort of rouge or reddish kind of vibe with a bit of sweetness. I don't really get that either. What I do get is a little bit of a kind of light, airy floralness that does at times kind of give me the impression of rose, but I wouldn't really consider this to be a particularly rosy fragrance. So, I mean, if the thing that's turning you off about this one or has you concerned about it is the rose, I would say for me personally, I don't get a lot of rose in it, which is good. I'm not sure how such a fresh, almost aquatic kind of fragrance. It definitely is in the opening, quite watery. I'm not sure how rose would play with that, but maybe, if it was stronger, it would still work really well. But the rose, I don't get a lot of in this fragrance. Now, in the dry down, I do definitely get more of a clean musk. So it does have a fairly nice, clean dry down. And before it gets to that point, that's probably about 3 hours before it gets to like the deep dry down, where to me, it's a clean, musky fragrance that kind of reminds me of just fresh, clean vibe. And it's not overly musky. It's not super animalic in that sense. It does just come off more as a nice, clean, fresh fragrance. The cucumber is pretty dominant for a long time. It tones down throughout the fragrance, and it has hints of that maybe in the dry down still. But it is definitely one of the main star players. And if you're looking for something with cucumber in the fragrance, I think definitely this is one you should check out, because the cucumber, very prominent. It definitely makes itself known, which is interesting. I appreciate sort of the uniqueness value of this fragrance, and I do think it would be something that would be something a lot of people enjoy in the summer. It's also very refreshing, so I think it does have a certain degree of mass appeal to it. There is also the performance on this one, which is pretty good. I would say I would get around 8 hours longevity, which for a fresh fragrance is quite good. I don't typically, if I get more than 6 hours with a fresh fragrance, I'm generally very happy. A lot of fresh fragrances, they just don't last as long because of the molecules that are used. And so I sort of move that bar down a little bit for fresh fragrances. But this one still meets the longevity really, really well. And the projection is also quite good for the first about 2 hours, I would say. Especially when the cucumber is the most prominent, this one pushes off the skin pretty good. Definitely leaving a nice scent trail, nice sillage. It's not huge, it's not beast mode, but it is something that's present, and it is one that's fairly light. So even it's one of those fragrances where if people smell it, they're not going to become overwhelmed by it, which can certainly happen with a thicker, heavier fragrance. This one is very light and very airy. Now, it's not as light as something like the Goldfield and Banks Pacific Rock Moss, which is also a terrible performer, but it's one where you can spray as much as you want, and it's never going to become too loud or too prominent. This one, you know what, I think you could definitely spray a little bit more of it, but I wouldn't go super crazy on the trigger. This is probably one that you do spray. I would spray this one a little bit more personally, but I wouldn't go like 8 or 9 sprays, which I could easily do with Pacific Rock Moss. Now, time for wearing this one. Again, like I said, best is going to be in the summer. And I think this one, I would be interested in trying it again in the summer, because it does have such a refreshing quality to it that I think that could really, really be nice on a hot day. Especially if it's really hot out and you just get this cool, refreshing vibe that it has. But it is definitely more of a casual fragrance, in my opinion. Something that I would wear, with a t-shirt. You probably could dress it up a little bit because it does smell very high quality. But it is an easy-to-wear fragrance. So I wouldn't say this is one that I would think to myself, I'm only going to wear this in a formal occasion. And in fact, if you're going to a really hot formal occasion, this one could work, although I think probably the best one for those situations, or one of the best, is Xerjoff Renaissance, because it just, to me, it's so high quality and smells so much of luxury that I would find a harder time wearing that one casually. This one I think you could easily wear when you're just out and about. It's a very easy fragrance to wear. A lot of people have said this one smells a little bit feminine. I kind of see what they mean. I wouldn't say that this is particularly a feminine fragrance. This one is not one that comes off to me as being very, very feminine. I think easily a man or a woman can wear this one. But like I said, I do kind of get a vibe where people who've said, yes, this one is, feminine or too feminine for them. I kind of get a vibe where I see what they mean with that. But again, I think this one is quite a unisex fragrance. So it is a nice release. I would like to try it in the summer, see how it actually plays out when the weather's a little bit hotter, because I think it has the potential to really, really shine. And I do like it, but it's probably not. I mean, I would say, especially with my collection and how it is right now, I don't see myself buying it now that I've tried it. But of course, you never know in the future. And I would recommend getting your nose on it. I think it's worth it, especially if you can get one of these double samples where it's Angel Share and Roses on Ice. I think it's a fantastic little double sampler there. Anyways, guys, I'm going to cut the video there. If you guys have tried any of the liqueurs collection, if you've tried, Roses on Ice, or if you've tried Angel Share, leave a comment down below what you think of those fragrances. And are you excited for the 2 new fragrances or the 2 liqueurs that are going to be coming to the Kilian collection sometime in the near future? Let me know in a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.